If you lack discipline and willpower, but happen to be smart, tying yourself to the mast like King Odysseus will be your ultimate salvation in this life. Odysseus was a renowned Greek king who fought for 10 years in the Trojan War, and now, returning victorious from battle, what he wanted most was to be reunited with his beautiful queen Penelope and hold his son Telemachus in his arms. However, a major obstacle stood in his way. On his journey home, he had to navigate through a narrow, treacherous reef that was completely packed with deadly sirens. Up to that point, no sailor had ever managed to survive the crossing because the enchanting voices of the sirens could induce powerful hallucinations. They would make sailors see whatever they desired most right there on the reefs, causing them to crash their ships and be ruthlessly devoured. Yet Odysseus possessed a rare virtue that set him apart. Besides being brilliant, he was deeply humble. He possessed the self-awareness to admit that he did not have superior discipline or willpower compared to ordinary people, and that he would inevitably fall for the sirens' temptation just like anyone else. Even so, his intense curiosity made him yearn to hear their legendary song. To resolve this intricate paradox, he designed a brilliant pre-commitment strategy. He ordered his loyal sailors to bind him securely to the ship's mast using multiple thick ropes. Furthermore, he instructed all of them to plug their ears tightly with wax, so they would be completely deaf to the music. He warned them beforehand, explaining that once they entered the reef and he heard the seductive song, he would lose his mind, scream, hurl insults, and desperately command them to untie him. He explicitly ordered them that no matter what he said or how frantically he begged, they must leave him firmly tied to the mast until they had safely cleared the entire reef. When the ship finally entered the danger zone, the reality proved far more terrifying than they had imagined. One sailor, whose ears were not plugged securely enough, succumbed instantly to the music and jumped straight into the raging sea. Meanwhile, Odysseus's hallucinations became so vivid and overpowering that he completely lost his sanity. Driven by superhuman strength, he thrashed violently against the mast, while his terrified crew watched in horror as they sailed deeper into the perilous waters. Yet, because he had intelligently planned ahead and bound himself tightly before the temptation struck, he successfully survived the ordeal. This timeless myth serves as a powerful metaphor for how we can manage our own psychological vulnerabilities and outsmart the modern sirens in our personal lives. Throughout history, remarkable individuals have utilized similar methods of environmental constraint to protect themselves from their own weaknesses. For example, the ancient Greek politician Demosthenes wanted to curb his tendency to get distracted and spend too much time partying with friends and romantic partners. To force himself to stay indoors and maintain discipline, he shaved half of his head and cut off half of his beard, rendering himself far too embarrassed to step out in public. Similarly, the legendary writer Victor Hugo faced intense distractions while attempting to write his masterpiece, Les Miserables. To combat procrastination, he would strip completely naked and hand all of his clothing over to a servant, giving strict orders not to return them for 4 hours until he had made meaningful progress on his manuscript. Whenever the modern sirens of temptation called out to him with invitations to go grab a beer or take a walk in the park with girlfriends, his lack of clothing kept him securely anchored to his desk, forcing him to keep working. We can apply this exact philosophy of environmental design to achieve our own personal goals, whether we want to build regular exercise habits or maintain a healthy diet. If you struggle with maintaining proper nutrition, you can effectively banish all the culinary sirens from your household. You can eliminate the irresistible potato chips that seem to sing out to you in an alluring way, and get rid of the tempting ice cream calling your name during the afternoon. By clearing out these environmental temptations and packing your refrigerator exclusively with wholesome options like fresh vegetables, chicken, and lean meat, you tie yourself to the mast of healthy living. Achieving your long-term goals becomes remarkably easy when you deliberately design your environment to eliminate friction and resist impulsive choices. Returning to the epic tale of Odysseus, as his ship pushed through the heart of the reef, he continued hallucinating the voices of Penelope and Telemachus, screaming out to him from the rocks, begging him not to leave them behind. Despite trying with all his might to break free and rush toward them, his prior preparation protected him. Because he was smart enough to recognize his own limitations and tie himself to the mast ahead of time, he successfully crossed the treacherous reef. A few days later, he reclaimed his royal throne in Ithaca and achieved a joyous reunion with his family. As exploring the mechanics of habit formation teaches us, designing your surroundings strategically is the ultimate key to making it much easier to resist temptations and accomplish your ambitions. Like and subscribe for more cognitive insights. Have a nice day!